We're going to talk about what has happened in Ukraine on this day of the Russian invasion. We'll examine the actions and the strategies, both military and political. Now, if this is your first time watching, my name is Darren Gertis. I'm a professor who's built multiple leadership programs at Charleston Southern University. So we'll also view these events through the lens of leadership. And I also wrote a book about Zelensky called I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride, and you can find it on Amazon. Okay, so here's what's happening on day 105. The fighting has been centralized in Severodonetsk. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the quote, Ukrainian group in the Donbas suffer significant losses in manpower. Well, that's true. It's questionable how much the Russians are suffered, but they've also boasted about they've shot down multiple Ukrainian aircraft, including planes, a helicopter, and nearly a dozen drones. How much that compares to what's going on the Ukrainian side, we don't know. They're not going to tell us. According to the UK Ministry of Defense, though, neither side has gained much of an advantage. Zelensky gave an address today where he said this quote, according to the results of the day, the 105th day of the full-scale war, Severodonetsk remains the epicenter of the confrontation in Donbas. We defend our positions, inflict significant losses on the enemy. This is a very fierce battle. And then he concluded with words that keep getting picked up in the media. I see it again and again. Just in the day, it's everywhere. Quote, in many ways, the fate of our Donbass is being decided there. And I think that's right. The fate of Donbass is going to come down to what happens in Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. The UK Ministry of Defense also reported that in Kherson, Russia has introduced the ruble as currency and is now employing Russian teachers. So it is being intentional about Russifying. And remember, Kherson is on that potential land bridge down to Crimea and even maybe past it to cover the entire Baltic. Kherson and other cities or cities in that neighborhood on the south side of Ukraine. Okay, according to TASS, the head of the Regional Military Civilian Administration, Yevgeny Belitsky, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, said that we are definitely moving toward joining Russia. Okay, so that's the head of the military civil administration in Zaporizhia. And so again, that's the same kind of land bridge area, and that's he's saying what they're going to do. He said a referendum is the most fair way as it would allow people to express their will. And I would agree if it was actually a fair vote, but I don't think it's going to be a fair vote. If you look at what happened in Crimea, I doubt that it's going to be a fair vote. Okay, the food crisis continues to worsen. Grain silos in Ukraine are still about half full, which they should be empty now, getting prepared for the summer planting and then the fall harvest. According to the Grain Association of Ukraine, but there's a possibility that much of this crop could be just simply left in the fields. Now, here's why. The Black Sea is mined along the coastline. It's blockaded by Russian warships, so they can't send it out by ships. There's only limited access by rail, or which the Russians are blowing up, or road by truck, which is going to be more expensive, or by river. And so they estimate that they're probably only going to be able to get rid of about 2 million of the 6 million tons of grain. They won't be able to export much more than that. And that's going to be very bad for not only Ukraine, but for the world. Okay, during the day, Zelensky also spoke to a virtual investor conference, and he introduced the virtual investors to Ukrainian military bonds. And I was astonished by this speech because he was trying to sell them on buying Ukrainian bonds and investing in Ukraine after the war. And he said this, quote, even now, during a full-scale war, we are demonstrating absolutely conscientious service of our debt. And it's right, he is doing that. And he's kind of it's almost like the situation in 2008 where the banks were backed by the government. Well, the Ukrainian situation seems to be backed by the IMF. So it seems like it's a fairly it's less risky than what it otherwise could have been. And then he spoke the language of business to them, talking about opportunities for investment in his country. And he said, what exactly are these opportunities? I will name 5 main ones: Europe, IT, agriculture, green energy, and localization of production. Okay, so think about this. Countries that want to move abroad often move abroad for to have access to markets, and so that they can have cheaper cost of production, things along those lines. So Ukraine is in Europe. They do have pretty decent IT infrastructure, great agriculture. But localization of production, they can make it there cheaper and export it out into that region more effectively. So that is alluring. Now, it's fascinating that he's offering them an opportunity to invest in the winner while the end result is still in question. And I think that speaks well of Zelensky's attitude towards what's going to happen in the future. Okay, that's it for day 105 and what's going on in Ukraine. Come back tomorrow to find out what's going on day 106. Hey, if this video was helpful, hit like to help others find it in YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe so that you can stay informed. And one more thing, if you are moved to contribute to the humanitarian aid for Ukraine, I have a link below for Samaritan's Purse. If you want to give, be sure to give only to reputable organizations. There's a lot of scammers out there. Thanks for your time.